Okay, if you didn't catch the last video, we are going through the developer's guide and kind of doing a couple quick orientations or tutorials on how to use the API. So here we are on the developer's guide. If you don't have access to that, just email us at support@onlinephotosubmission.com and we will get you access to that. There and on the home page of the developer's guide, you'll see these two Postman collections. In the last video, we talked about the person API, kind of gave a brief orientation of that. Today we are going to talk about the photo API and interacting with that. So all you have to do is click on this Postman collection. If you don't have Postman, you can just go over here to getpostman.com, download the application, and you can follow along with this tutorial with that. But I'm going to close that for now. Come back over here. All right, so you'll just grab this file, click download, and download it. We've already downloaded it. And then up here at the top, you just do import, and you can import that collection. It's a Postman collection, and you'll see this collection show up here. If you've got the history tab selected that looks like this, you might actually have to click over to collections before you see it, but it'll be called CloudCard Photo Download Requests. Okay, so we'll go ahead and open that, and let's start off with a blank slate. And the very top request is Authenticate. So let's go ahead and select that one and go to the body. And I'm actually going to, this should be empty when you get started with it. So that's what it should look like. And you're going to put the information in for the service account that you created during the last video. If you haven't created, if you didn't watch the last video, and you have a service account, just put the credentials in here. If you're not sure how to create a service account, you can either watch the beginning of the last video, or you can actually just watch. There's a YouTube video that we have in our YouTube library that's all about creating service accounts and getting access tokens. So you can watch that as well. But by hook or by crook, create a service account and put the information here. And actually, let me just go grab the information off of another request. Looks like I didn't save it, but I'll go grab it real quick. So over here in CloudCard, let me grab my information off my service account. Apologize for this brief delay while this is my service account. Here's the email address, and I'm going to paste the email address in as the username field, and I happen to still have the password generator open that I use to generate the password, so I'll paste that there. All right, I'm not going to go into this request very much because we talked about it in the last video, so I'm just going to send it, and I get a response back, 200 OK with the access token there. All right, and just like in the last video, the access token in Postman, we're leveraging the code that you can put into the test block to grab the access token and other fields on other requests and to store those into the environment. So if we take a quick look here, up in the top right, if you look in the environment, you'll see the access token has been saved and it's got the same value that we just received back. So let's go ahead and get rid of that, and let's go ahead and use the access token that we just created. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get photos that are ready for download. So if you need to know how to get photos ready for download, literally in CloudCard, you'll have over here on the Photos tab, you'll have pending photos, and then you can you'll simply approve or deny them on this tab. And we've got those in other demos, and they'll show up on the Approve tab, and then you'll click Download Photos. And depending on how you have CloudCard set up, the photos will either immediately download to a zip file. If that happens, then you need to reach out to us and let us know, because we need to just change one configuration, so that your photos will be, instead of being downloaded to a zip file, so that your photos will be marked as ready for download. Okay, so each one of these represents a photo status. They start as pending, then they get approved or denied, right? And then from approved, they go to downloaded if you're using the zip downloader. But if you're not using the zip downloader, if you're using an external API download strategy, which is what we're talking about today, they go from approved to ready for download. That's what the API is looking for, and then we click that, and then the API is going to be responsible for the API client is going to be responsible for marking them as downloaded once they've been downloaded. So if you click download here and it downloads a zip file, just shoot us a request or reach out to your reseller, and they'll change that setting. If you want to be specific, just let them know that you need to have your application set up to use the external download strategy. Okay, but it's one or the other. You either use the zip download strategy or you use the external download strategy. Either one. And if you're developing an application while CloudCard is actually already in production, and maybe your team is using the zip download strategy, just let us know, and we'll set up a test organization for you, or we'll get you set up with an account on in the test instance, so that you can build this without interfering with your production team. Okay. With that said, we're looking for photos that are ready for download. So let's take a look at this URL. It's a GET request first and foremost. We're making a request to API photos, and we add this status equals ready for download. Okay. On there, there's no body obviously because it's a GET request. We are going to accept application JSON, and that access token from the last request that got stored in the environment is being used right here. Okay, so let's go ahead and send it. See what we get back. Great. So we've got a list of objects. There's just one object in here right now, and I'm going to go ahead and collapse a few things here to make it a little easier for us to look at. Okay, so this is what a photo object looks like. And there's a few key pieces that are particularly interesting for us. Obviously, the status. Everything should be ready for download. And everything that was returned in this. If I had changed this to, say, approved, I could download approved photos. And some schools, actually, while I'm talking about that, some schools actually choose to download approved photos and then move those straight from approved to downloaded. So using their external API strategy. So instead of, in that situation, what they actually do is using the custom CSS, they will turn off this download button, right? Just turn it off, hide it altogether. And when photos get approved, they show up in this tab, and then the external downloader just grabs them straight from this tab and moves them over to the next tab to downloaded. So that's a perfectly good strategy, and it works for sure. In fact, it's a little more streamlined. It's just that some other schools like to have that extra step of, after they've approved photos on the pending queue, they like to look at them on the approved queue, just kind of give them one last scan over, and then click the download button. It's totally up to you guys what works better for you. So this could be approved photos instead of ready for download photos. Whatever works. All right, with that said, we have in here another very important thing, two actually, the public key, which is used, it's a super long key that's used to access this photo, impossible to guess, and it is used to generate the URL for the key. So that the URL for this image, and that URL is actually right here. So this photo object that we pulled back, it's actually really photo metadata. It's not really the photo itself. So we've got the metadata. We know how to get to that, to the binary for the photo, and that's going to be the next step, which is to get the photo file. Okay, and then in our test method here, one of the things we've done is we checked to make sure that the bytes link was there. That's what we call, this link right here on line 10. We call it the bytes link. And we take the value of that link and store it into a bytes link variable on the environment, this variable right here. And then on the very next method, you notice there's not much. The whole URL actually is the bytes link, right? Because it's a fully generated URL. It'd be impossible for us to predict what it was, so that is how that gets generated. And so we just send this GET request, wait for it, and there's the photo back. Gosh, I've been using that photo for years. So that has come back now. At this point, you've got the binary. You can do whatever you want with it, save it, store it in a database, create a file for it. It is formatted as a JPEG. So, one of the other things you might want to do, the person object is actually on the photo object. So you can grab the person's identifier and store this as like ID number.jpg, right? So you might store this as L123456.jpg and save it, or you might just take the block, use that ID number as a key in a database field. Whatever you want to do, whatever you're planning on doing with this, send it on to another API, whatever works. But that's how you kind of match this up with the person that it belongs to. So we've got that photo. At this point, you do whatever you do with the photo, but there's one last important cleanup step, and that is to mark this photo as downloaded. Otherwise, you're going to continue to get this same photo back. Because if I go over here to this request and I make the same request, right? Because I haven't changed the status of that photo, I'm going to get this same photo back over and over and over again. So the last step is to number 4, set the photo status as downloaded. Okay, so one of the things that we did also in the get step where we got all of our photos, we grabbed the photos ID field right here, 244019, and stored that off in the environment so that we could use it later on this put request. Okay, so we're just doing a put to photos or /API/photos, and then the database ID, and the body is literally just status downloaded. You don't have to put the whole body, like the whole JSON object for that photos, just the thing you want to change, which is status downloaded. So I'll go ahead and send that. All right, and it comes back, and then you can actually inspect the object to make sure that the status has actually been marked as downloaded. Let me grab this ID real quick. So if I go back over here to check what's coming back in my list, I now get an empty list back. Okay. Now, if here's something you can do if you want to kind of retest, because sometimes it never works the first time, right? You can actually take the just jot this down somewhere, and then you can go back here and ready for download. There you go. Send that request. So you can kind of do double duty with this update request, and then if I run my GET request again, he'll show up again, so that I can continue to test, because like I said, it never works the first time, right? None of us are that good. So there you go, ready for download, and you can kind of go through your test again. So there you go. I mean, that's it. The photo API is definitely even easier, even more simple than the person API. It's just authenticate to get your access token. Hit API photos to get all the photos of either the approved status or the ready for download status, right? Iterate over each of those, each of the objects that came back in this response, right? And and then just call the bytes link, right, for that object that's auto-generated. call that bytes link to get the binary for that photo, and then you either save it or store it in the database or whatever you're going to do, and then finally mark all of those photos as downloaded so that they don't show up again. And it's that easy. That's it. Well, I hope that was helpful. If you guys have any questions, as always, feel free to reach out to support@onlinephotosubmission.com, or if you're coming through one of our resellers, reach out to your support rep. Thanks and have a great day.